Okay, so the next topic that we're going to go ahead and discuss is the restitution. Restitution, by definition, is the restoration of something lost or stolen to its proper owner. And that's exactly the same. This is the same definition that we can use here in court view, except for we're paying it back in some type of monetary value. So restitution. Let's say that let's say the case is against me, and I fell asleep at the wheel. I had a long day at work and I accidentally fell asleep at the wheel, and I drove into somebody's fence and completely destroyed it. A case would be opened up, and through this process, the court would order me to pay back any damages that I caused, and that would be paid through restitution. I would be paying for all the damages that I caused during this accident. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the case. As you guys already know, that case number, this example one, is already in my name. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, let's say that it was already ordered for this restitution to be paid and let's just say that the person's house that I ran into the fence, it's my boss's. Okay, so unfortunately for me, I'm in trouble. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the dockets, and I'm going to assign restitution on the case by throwing the restitution docket. So we're going to go ahead and do add record. I already know the code for it. So there we go. We got the restitution ordered in here. It's a zero cost docket, so the amount owed is going to be zero. So let's say I did $10,000 worth of damage. And then, so that's going to be populating over there. The next one that we want to go ahead and populate is this payee name. The payee name is going to be the person that this money is going to be paid or forwarded to. So what's going to happen essentially in an overall view is that once I make a payment towards this restitution, CoreView is not going to sit on it or hold it in anywhere. It's going to take that money and move it into what we call a payables record. That payable record, when we're ready, we'll tell it to take that payables record and create a check. That check will then be printed with the payee information and sent off to the payee. So let's go ahead and enter in the payee name. I'm going to go ahead and select this little gray box right here. This does take us to the check payee selection screen. If there's already a payee name in the system that you know of, you can choose to search for that name and use it. I'm just going to go ahead and do add record for the second data link, and then in this screen we can go ahead and start entering in the payee information. So I'm going to go ahead and do Rebecca Edward. So we're going to have to put in her address here. I'm going to go ahead and put 178 Boss Road. Go ahead and put in the zip code. It was somewhere here in Carson. There we go. We have the payee's name in which the restitution would be forwarded to, their address, and now we can hit save. That's it. One more time than I wanted to. So now the payee's name shows up in that payee name field. If you want to put in comments down here, you definitely can. Miguel is in huge trouble, must pay back quick. Huge trouble, must pay. Yikes. We're gonna hit save on that, and now we have this restitution docket added to the case for $10,000. So another thing in mind that you need to keep is that restitution only works in AR. I'm going to be briefly talking about the AR right now, but just know that we do have another video that's going to be covering AR. So once again, I will reiterate it because it's an important part of restitution, is that restitution can only be receipted against if restitution is in AR. If the restitution is not an AR, we cannot receipt against that. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to assign this money to the AR plan. And by doing that, we have to go into modules and go into accounts receivable. Okay. We're going to go up to functions, AR maintenance. This takes us to the accounts receivable selection screen. We can choose to search for an AR plan or create one from here. We're going to go ahead and put in the case number. That was that 19CR18. It's going to tell us that once it searches, it's going to tell us that no records found for search criteria. This is correct. We don't have an AR plan currently established for this case. So we're going to hit OK, and on the left-hand side, we're going to do add record. Once again, it's going to ask us to put in the case, we're going to go ahead and choose the 19CR18 case. It's going to populate down here in the search results. We're going to highlight it to the left. We're going to do select. That is telling us that we're going to select this case for an AR plan. Now it's going to ask us to choose the the party that we want to have the AR plan open for. This one's usually going to be the defendant. So we're going to go ahead and highlight the defendant and do select. You're more than welcome to do add record if there's a different party that the AR plan will be open for, but typically it's not. Typically it's first for the defendant. So we're going to highlight them, hit select. There we go. Now we get the AR maintenance screen. From here, it's going to auto default to the open AR. You're going to have a reason over here for payment plan or something like that. Once again, I'm not going to go into too much detail for this because we do have another video coming out for it. So I'm just going to kind of rush through it. I'm going to go over to this cost screen over here to the left. Got to put in an order date real quick, put in today's date. That won't yell at me anymore. So now I'm going to go to costs. It's going to take us to the accounts receivable distribution assignment. Looks a little confusing here, but essentially the only thing that's happening here is you're telling it which cases or which dockets you want to add to the AR plan. And we do that by choosing these little add buttons here, or if all the money is going to be added to the AR plan, on the left you have a diamond link for select all. Also, you have one for deselect all. You can choose to search for a docket. You can go back to your docket entries for the case, and then you can just choose the view receipts. You can do add case receipts and add AR receipts here. So from here, you can choose to receipt as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just put the restitution docket into AR. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom. There's my restitution docket. I'm going to click on this add. That's going to then populate this assigned column, 10,000. Bottom grand total line is going to be 10,000 as well. So it looks like we're good to go here. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So now we have the $10,000 that's assigned to the AR plan for restitution. We can now at this point receipt to the case and receipt to that restitution docket and start getting this money paid back to the payee. So I'm going to go ahead and just exit out of all of this. I'm going to go back into the case and I'm going to go ahead and receipt. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and go through functions and then case receipting. So I'm going to go ahead and get that case number in here. I'm going to highlight the case, click on it, and on the left you'll see that there's case receipts. Case receipts is going to be for receipts for receipting against dockets that are not assigned to an AR plan. Vice versa, the AR plan is going to be, or the AR receipts is going to be for receipting to dockets that are assigned to an AR plan. Since our restitution docket is assigned to an AR plan, we're going to do add AR receipts. There we go. So now we have $10,000 that's be receipted for on this. So let's say that, you know, you guys are going to be creating plans for this restitution where the defendant's going to have to be paying X amount of dollars for X amount of months. So for this one, I'm just going to make a quick one. So let's just say that this person came in with credit card and said, I'm paying off the whole thing. We're done. We're going to go ahead and put a reference number CC. I'm going to put 1234. Okay. Awesome. Now we're going to go ahead and hit save on this. So now we've paid off that entire restitution in one shot. You can choose it's possible to have just multiple payments of $50 a month for the next, you know, X amount of time. But in this situation, I'm just going to pay off the full 10,000 in restitution, get it over with. Rebecca doesn't hate me anymore. Okay. So now we've receipted and paid off the entire restitution for this case. How do we get this money over to the payee now? So I'm going to go ahead and exit out all these screens. And in order to do that, what the system does first is it creates a payables record that will then eventually turn into the check. So how do we view that payables record? That exists in modules, accounts receivable, and then functions. Yeah, functions and then payables. This is going to give us that AR payables manuals check detail generation, and that does exactly as it says. Is it generates a check detail for the restitution that was just paid. So let's take a look at that. We're going to go ahead and it auto defaults to cash book, which is what we want. We're going to choose the cash book that you want. Your guys is going to be your guys' court. Mine's just test justice court. It's located in Central Nevada. And then we're going to give it a second to generate all the check detail, all the restitution payables. This may take a while depending on how many payables you guys have. So we're just going to give it a second here. There we go. So it looks like this one right here is the one that we're looking for. It'll list the case number and then it'll list the payee. So that way, at least you know if you have multiple restitution payable records, you can you know which one is going to be generated at this moment. Some courts will print out their restitution payables right there and then once they're receipted against. Some courts will wait till the end of the month. Just kind of varies. So let's go ahead and say that we want to go ahead and get Rebecca her money. So by default, it's going to check all the payable records as they continue downwards. So if we only want to generate one of these, we're going to go ahead and check the ones that we don't want to. So we know that, yep, restitution order, that's it right there. This is who's going to be getting the money. The check amount should be for $10,000. That is absolutely correct. So at this point, we have that payable records checked. All we have to do is just hit save. It's going to tell us that the check detail records will be created for selected records. We can choose to hit cancel if somehow we chose the wrong one or something else needs to be changed. But if we know that everything is correct and we want to generate that check detail, we're going to go ahead and hit continue. It's going to take us back to the previous screen. We can go ahead and exit out all these screens here. And so now what? So just to kind of recap what happened here is we've talked about the restitution. We know how to add the restitution to a case via a restitution docket. We know that the restitution has to be an AR in order for us to receipt against that restitution docket. So we learned how to put that money to assign the restitution cost into an AR plan, and then we were able to add an AR receipt to receipt against the restitution docket, which then created the accounts receivable payables. Once we hit save on that payable, it created the check details.